Good morning, St. Maarten. What's cooking? Let me just hold on a minute and see if we are live because I was having some issues there getting on just now again. It seems that when you tag people, you can't really get on. So I go without tagging anyone now and just will wait a minute to see if I am live on the feed. Once I get the first one to come in and I see we have people that are on, then we can start off this wonderful Monday morning. It's much nicer than it was yesterday because yesterday we had a lot of rain, and I'll talk about it a little later as one of those side effects of climate change, something that we're not paying attention to enough, but it's something that's going to bite us in the butt if we don't watch out. But let me start off this morning on a whole different note. Someone brought it to my attention and they said, you are right. I'm going to address it this morning. It's been a while now since the Larimar case was handled in courts. And in that case, there were different people that were convicted and there was a company that was convicted. I want to focus on the part of the company. Company was sentenced to, I believe it was $2 million or 2 million guilders in works that they had to execute free of charge for the government because of their part in the Larimar case. Now I know the company did start, and it was agreed this would be done in the sewage field. We would do works in the sewage field for a total of 2 million, and it would be supervised by, I believe, ICE, and the financials would be reviewed by SOAB. I think that's how it was put together. Now, they started the project from Melford Hazel, and they laid the pressure line from Melford Hazel up to the Carnival Village area. And I know they were working on the lifting station, which is the collection basin for that area. And they were going to put that in play. Now, that's about 500,000 guilders on work. But there's much more work to be done. There was work to be done with a lifting station in the area of the old Public Works building, where the whole western side of Phillipsburg, so the Dung Street area on the Front Street and Back Street, would be able to be connected to the sewage system once and for all. Before I left, all the house connections were made, but the connection needed was that lifting station because Down Street is too low to tie into the existing connections that we have in the Phillipsburg. What does it mean? At this point in time, I don't know. Also, the connection on the ATLH road was to be done, link to phase 6. Then I heard the minister talking about the Dutch Quarter failed project, that money would be moved there to have the company finish that work. That project didn't finish either. So the question is, what's really happening? There was a fine imposed of 2 million. Some work was done, and then it went dead. And nobody is saying nothing, and the money can greatly be used in the sewage. We have enough issues that we can use with the sewage plant. We go to Holland and we say, oh, this sewage plant would work ideally here, but if you don't connect to the line, you don't need a sewage plant. You don't need a sewage plant because you need to get sewage to the sewage plant, and that connection is missing, and that's what that money was going to. So I'm just stating this to say we need to follow up on agreements that were made and execute those agreements. And I know there might be a lot of things that might have stood in the way, but I don't believe they stand in the way right now. And I ask this question also because the government said they're going to collect all the outstandings from companies who didn't do the work. But here you got a good example for millions. But you seem not to be going there. Why? I was amazed how the former Mullet Bay owners believe they're going to get back the property, and I'm talking about Ansari and his clan. Here in St. Maarten, after all the misappropriations of over 1 billion guilders that was done, they took the money out of the pension fund, the ENIA pension fund, and they put it in all kind of different organizations. I don't know what they did or why they did it, but they took it where it wasn't allowed to be taken from. And the judge said, pay it back. So now they are in appeal. The order to pay back stands. That wasn't sidelined until there was appeal. The order to pay back stands. So has the central bank initiated collections of the 1 billion guilders on behalf of ENIA? These are things that I ask because they must be relevant. The property of Mullet Bay, there's a disparity in what it's worth. Is it 50 million? Is it 70 million? Is it 100 million? Is it 300 million? And I'm talking dollars right now. I believe it's around 50 to 70 million dollars. I want to believe it's that, or maybe 100 million, I'm not sure. But the catch is this, where I'm trying to go with this is two places. One, what happens to the towers at Mullet Bay? A lot of people used to walk there. But people ain't getting money yet. A lot of owners of the towers have no clue what's happening with their investment. Now I think these people are all a casualty of this war, but they should not become the victims of this war. The government, through the Minister of Finance, should go to the central bank and say, what do we do with these two things? Since we took Mullet Bay as property and the towers is on Mullet Bay's property, what are we going to do with the employees that still need to get their money? It might be a civil matter, but their assets are gone. And what happens to the people that bought timeshare or ownership, whatever you want to call it, in the towers? What happens to these people? Another caravanserai would be a major disaster for us. Another Pelican would be a major disaster for this country. So here maybe the Minister of Tiat, I know he just stepped in, but maybe this is something to look at carefully and see how we can intermediate and get these problems solved. Most of the owners at the towers are people that came from abroad and invested their money in our country. So I hope we get a little more insight on it. Again, I want to stand by my previous position. The central bank is owned for 22.22% by St. Maarten. St. Maarten should make a direct bid, not a public tender, a direct offer to the central bank to take over the properties of Mullet Bay. And then, first of all, realign the road through Mullet Bay alongside the shores of Mullet Bay to protect the beach once and for all from any other new developer, and create proper parking so that the whole beach can be used and you don't have this beach chairs fights because people are parked in one parking lot all the way up the road and then want to go right there on the beach, and then everybody upset because otherwise they're going to walk all the way up the road with their coolers. If you create parking across the beach, this will not be an issue. Secondly, there are enough high-end entities that would love to put a few towers in Mullet Bay. Like, for example, how you got 14, and exploit the golf course to its maximum, because it is still a great golf course. There is so much that can be done in Mullet Bay without using up too much footprint, allowing the place to go. I mean, you know, we can say what we want, but 14 has been sold out basically. So there is value for money in that sort of building, if that's what we want to do. Because there are some naysayers that say, oh no, it looks ugly. For you, we all have a choice, we all have a taste. And you can't tell people that inject 100 million into something, oh, you can't do nothing with your job, or you can't do nothing with this piece of land. It is private property at the end of the day. And we should learn to respect that too. We should also have norms in place to say what we can and what we cannot do on the properties that you own. But when you set those laws, be prepared to open your pocketbook and compensate accordingly. Because we don't want to pay tax, we don't want to do nothing, but we want to tell people what to do. That's the ignorance in a lot of people in this country. Unfortunately, I can't support that. Now, let's move on again. Once again, the bridge was hit. I am happy to read today on the front page that the new Minister of TIAT is going to make it his #1 priority to widen that bridge. I am sure there were many plans before to widen it. I think the most difficult part in the widening is not going to be going from going into the west and going into the east, but more going down. I know all the utilities run under there, so there's going to be a major replacement of all the water, a major replacement of all the high tension and lines, but it can be done. But it's not something that will be done overnight, because you're going to have to run a whole new set of cables and piping before you can even disconnect what's there, because you're going to have to reconnect and then take that out to go deeper if you have to go. So that on its own is going to be a serious job. And then the widening and putting in is basically you're putting in a new bridge. So you're looking at a project that can take you any place between a year to 18 months, I want to believe, when you have to redo everything and put it properly in place. But we have the causeway. So we have an alternative route. The problem might be that we will put the industry in a little precarious situation while we build in the new structure. So we will want to do it out of season, one set, and then wait again and maybe go into the other off season and do it again. Again, these are things that the professionals in this field should look at, that the least amount of damage is done to the industry, because that bridge is the in and out. Nothing don't come in and out of the causeway. They come in and out there. Another alternative is that a certain amount, a certain size of a yacht is allowed in, and no more. We see that we have at Chesterfields, there's a marina being built there, so the big yachts can go there if they so desire. You can even go by the pier if so desired, if they are so big. I know the thing is, everybody wants to be in the Simpson Bay area because that's the ambiance area. But at the end of the day, we also have to look at what's possible. Maybe, boy, oh boy, I hope I'm not on slippery slopes here. But maybe, just maybe, Alegria, because they're going to come for their land anyway. Maybe you should give them the right to build a mega pier in the sea to hold those bigger yachts. Maybe that's something to consider. They have a great hotel and everything there, and maybe that's an alternative. I don't know. But there's nothing wrong with looking at it, because the cost to redo the bridge and the expenses that it can cost the economy is something to look at. I saw the pictures from 2011, the designs. We are 12 years for nearly. It didn't go no place. And I know there are reasons for such. There are reasons why it didn't go no place. But again, I am not the expert in this field. I'm not going to pretend to be the expert, nor am I going to give a solution that I can back up. One solution I'm saying is, we got a marina in town. Maybe we should build an open water marina in the area down there by, what you call that place there now? Morgan's Hotel, in Alegria, in that area. And see if it works. If it doesn't work, because normally we don't get storms out of the west. We get them out of the east. So it might be able to work. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't want to throw out something that might not work, but maybe it's something to look at. And then we can do something with it, if it is possible. But what's happening now, we got to be very cautious with, because that accident, it knocked away the boot. It could have also hurt somebody. And I don't know if it is the competency or the incompetency of the captains. I don't want to go to the incompetency. Maybe there was too much of wave action, because when you look at a video, you notice the boat is moving as if there's wave action. I don't know. I don't want to judge it because I'm not that of an expert on the sea. Now, this is the one that I liked. I read a lot of Dutch newspapers, I read Curaçao papers, and also in the Dagblad, I picked this one up. There was a meeting between the Council of State of the Netherlands and the Common Courts, whom invited some other legal entities like Coast Guard, etc., in Curaçao, and it led to a very interesting observation, one that I share 100%. The president of the courts of the Common Courts, the Honorable Mr. De Kort, said that he was extremely happy with the additional funds that the Netherlands make available to the RST, TBO, whatever you want to call them, to fight heavy crime, organized crime, cross-border crimes, money laundering, terrorism, financing, etc., etc. Very happy with that, because it helps the country's safety. But he said also in the same breath that they need to make monies available to handle the follow-up in prison. Because yes, we arrest them and we put them in prison. You can see what's happening right now in prison. You see pictures of before and after of a basketball court, of a gym, of a music hall. And I'm extremely happy that it looks so good, because the last time I was up there, it looked deplorable. So the minister has done a lot, but the people were asking different things. They were asking for health. They were asking for dental. They were asking for nutritious food. Those are not things that I saw in the pictures. Now understand that these are basic human rights of a prisoner. I am not going to delve into the whole prison situation today, but I'll tell you this much. Prison is for everybody. All of us. Me, you, all of us, including judges. I want to get back to what that good gentleman said. We need money to ensure that the trajectory when a prisoner is in jail is proper. We need to ensure that the judicial chain gets the necessary money and attention, so that when we are looking at, for example, the resocialization programs, when we're looking at the probation matters, that these things are correct. Ankle bracelets. I heard the Inmates Association legal representative speak about reduction in sentences for good behavior. Again, that doesn't cost money, but it can save money. And again, you have somebody locked up in inhumane conditions, overcrowded cells, no privacy, people don't feel safe, people are not tested for HIV, etc., etc. We got to work with each other. You're going to have to work. 70 people who are allowed to be in there. Right now we got 80. So you have overcrowding. Again, I'm saying, I liked what the president of the court said. We need to ensure that we don't only put money there to investigate, arrest, and lock up people, but that you put money there to make sure that when they sit their time, they sit it in a humane manner, and that they are re-socialized. So when they come out, they become an asset to the community and not another issue to the community. That's the message. And I think it's a good message that they send with the Council of State, because the Council of State very often is involved in all the advices that are made. Look, we have had people that all they believed in is the Caribbean, the Dutch Caribbean, they're as corrupt as they can come, and we need to lock all of them up. Some of them still believe that. Some of them still believe we are colonized slaves. But that doesn't make it right. So I am happy, and I want to thank publicly the president of the courts to bring that directly to the state. to the Council of State. I think people are not realizing the importance of that meeting and that public statement that we all could have read it. At least now I know that the Council of State understands the situation better. And when they are reviewing advices, they can also give advice on how to go with it. So I think it was a very, very, very good something. I noticed that the amputations, when I listened to the doctor, the surgeon actually, Dr. Marcelina, when he was given some numbers on how amputations used to be versus how amputations are today, and amputations for 99% are due to diabetes, it is a scary something. And it tells you that diabetes is rampant and we don't really take care of ourselves too good. I am a diabetic myself, and I know how difficult it is when you see that piece of chocolate or you see a piece of cake there to leave it alone. I too just cheat, and it's the wrong thing. But the thing I fear most also would be an amputation. Imagine they cut off your leg, or you cut off a limb, your hand, your toes, you know. So people, I think we need to give it a little more thought, especially the diabetes group. Think about your health. Think about what can happen not only to you, but to your family. Because if you lose your legs and you become immobile, you become a burden, an unnecessary burden to your own family. Because they gotta take care of you. It's as if you jumping up, going, come back. They gotta strap you and go with you, take care of you. And if it ain't needed, don't do it. Take care of yourself. So Doc, I'm happy you spoke about it. I think it's something that the Ministry of Health should look at a little more, and maybe statistically show the country where we stand with these type of things, so people understand it. Because you see, as long as it doesn't happen to you or your family, you're not aware of it. If we amputate 100 limbs a year, that's 100 people. We live in a society of 60,000 people and we don't pay attention, we don't bat an eye on it. There's so many things that happen here. As long as they don't happen to you, you don't know about it, you don't worry about it. And that's unfortunate, because that village we had is not a village anymore. It's a subway now. We all go our separate ways. What's happening with our gaming board and our gaming laws? I keep asking this because this is where monies can be made for taxes. A lot of money. There is no gaming board. We said, oh, we're working on it, we're working on it. We are working on it from the day I got into Parliament. That's over 3 years ago. We're still working on it. And we are still nowhere. I don't understand that. I see lottery houses pop up like public toilets. We got more lottery houses, booths, than public toilets in St. Maarten. Nearly as much as the street lights we got. But it's not regulated. The taxes is minute, if even. And I'm saying these things, these lottery things, this online gambling, this is exactly what they use in the Netherlands to talk about money laundering, terrorism, financing, and all kind of craziness. And we, for one reason or the other in this government, seems to be dancing around it, and I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. I hope that you all are listening, and maybe, just maybe, call Curacao, see how they have done theirs. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. We constantly try to do that, and we use as our excuse the French side. Well, the French side ain't on the damn casinos, so you don't got to worry about that. Go and do it. And all those that telling you not to do it, tell them listen to Gromiko. No more brown bags. Again, you know, let me publicly state this, because I don't like to say something and then, don't live up to it. I was one of them that was very doubtful that our new Minister of Tiat would have been minister. I was very doubtful. But he became the minister, and I will respect him as minister. I will give him cooperation whenever he asks for it, and I hope that the plans he have can make a difference for this country. I truly hope so. We cannot worry about anything that has passed already. We got to move forward now. Like I said, I had my doubts. I was proven wrong. For me, that's it. I'm moving on. I hope the others do the same thing, and we try to get done what needs to be done. He came already with a very strong proposal where he said, my first priority is widening the Simpson Bay Bridge. I think it's a great idea. It's not something that will happen in 100 days, not even in 300 days, but it can happen if we start the works now and we get the contracts and bids and everything in place. It can work. And I wish him all the best with that. Minister of Education, what are you doing, sir? When are you planning to pay the Department of Public Education staff that ran the summer program back in 2022? When are you going to pay them? When they take you to courts? When they make the government look like a fool? People go out of their way 7 months ago and ran a program and they are not even paid yet. I mean, come on, man. Payroll running end of this month. Make sure the money is on. Or run a separate payroll. Do something. But pay the people. You all agreed to pay them. They ran a program for you all. They didn't do it for free. Pay the people. That's all I can say. Because if you all ain't planning on paying them, then I go publicly tell them, go and file a formal complaint for a criminal act of fraud. Because this is craziness what you're doing. Pay the people. It's their money. Now, I want to thank the Minister of Justice. I came out here and I spoke about the issues between the union, the Minister of Justice, and I called on CCSU to intervene, or the minister, and the minister took the high road. The minister called in everybody. She sat with them. She explained them everything. She says, please, if you have any questions, I am here. Please ask them. I want to ensure that clarity is given. I think that was a great gesture. I think that was the way to go. I hope that it's not going to continue lingering in the press, and the next time we see the union and the minister in the press is because the signatures were put on all the documents that had to be placed on, and that all the police officers in the justice chain have gotten what is due to them, or will be getting what is due to them, because all the legalities have now been finalized. That's what I hope to see the next time I see the good minister and the unions talking about this. I'm also very happy to see that SCDF is restructuring the foundation and creating different committees moving forward. I think I had it here, the pageant committee, the road events committee, the local shows committee, the RTC and fundraising committee, and the marketing committee. So there are 5 different committees, and each one of them naturally now has their own team of volunteers with a chairman, and they will be doing these things naturally under the umbrella of the SCDF. I think that's a very, very good way of doing it, because you now put people that are most specialized in these type of things. People that do pageant shows are not necessarily people that are good in road events. But now you can put the right people in the right place and they do their thing. I think that's really a good thing, and I'm very happy that they went that direction. So at least we got that one covered now fully. Now we can go over to something that bothered me, and that was the K1 Britannia. What is wrong with K1 Britannia? I don't know. But what I do know is that it's a serious problem in the making. Because the stories that broke are stories that are scary for anybody that is giving donations to any organization. I come from the Lions Club. You have the Rotary Club. You have other organizations that every year do certain programs to enhance the lives of people in St. Maarten. Wherever government falls short, as civic organizations, we try our utmost to help. You have organizations that do this in the field of health. You have the Diabetes Foundation. You have organizations that work with cancer. You have so many. So when you see a story like this break, you hold your head. Because K1 Britannia was placed on a pedestal too often by the government and certain entities. And now you get this. They were the ones that took up, how would I say, a front seat when it came to food deliveries and all those type of things after Irma with Red Cross, the military. They went to Haiti to do work after the earthquake. They went to Dominica to do work. So it is an organization that does great work. Don't misunderstand that piece. I'm not knocking that. What I'm knocking is this craziness with the financial explanations on what's happening. That those are not given correctly. Now, when I saw the story from Ralph Cantav, now I have a lot of respect for Ralph because I think Ralph is a reasonably good investigative journalist. Don't always agree with everything the way he puts it, but I give him credit because he does his homework. He goes and looks, he digs, and sometimes when you dig a lot, you find a lot. And when you see the question and answer, you say HIPAA. Then you see Terence Ray, another author that does investigative digging, writes a somewhat similar part in this against this entity. And then you start to say to yourself, wait, what is really happening? Instead of clarity being given, they put a full paid advertisement, like a brochure, in the Daily Herald. I was amazed that the Daily Herald didn't even carry the story. That's what caught my attention. Now, again, you see, the donors are the ones that I'm scared of. That they say, you know what, I'm not participating anymore in these things, and we're going to stop donations to these type of entities. These entities include other entities that have been working here for 30, 40 years, faithfully serving the community of this country. So I don't want that to be the consequence of this behavior. Now, I'm not going to judge the good lady because I don't have the evidence. But I'll tell you this much. Everybody that I spoke to started giving me stories. Now, stories can be rumors, but some of them, you know where to pick the nonsense out of the truth. And then the truth will remain in front of you. And I think it's going to get clearer in the next few weeks what really went down. Authorities have been looking into it now, I understood. So it's going to get cleared up. But it is so unfortunate that this type of damage is done. Now again, remember, I don't always agree with everything these gentlemen write. And I don't even agree with some of the people that is right for these gentlemen. Because, you know, my life was turned upside down 12 years ago by Hilbert Hare, who run away now and hide in some place in the Western or some Middle East country or in the Mid East. I don't even know where. I don't really care. But you see, when people like him wrote stories, which I call yellow journalism, it put me in daylights of things I never did. And he said he was an investigative journalist. And he writes for one of these outlets. That's why I said, I'm not going to just take it at face value. But what was written, certain places I could see the light of day. And that's what I'm saying. You got to be cautious, because I know what bad press can do to an organization, to a person, to a family. I know what it can do. I have lived it. So I'm not going to trash people because of something that was written. I'm not going to trash an organization because of something that was written. Today, while I discuss NIPA, I will show you the two sides of the story that I got out of one that was written and one that I discussed with the board. A board member, my apologies, a board member. So it's to show you that you got to be careful. But this good lady, I think we have a problem, and an in-depth investigation in the funds transferred to that organization by government and any government-based organization needs to be done now, right away. Let us not go sit down and wait and pussyfoot about it. No, have it done. Because this can lead to a lot of damage for other service clubs, other civic clubs, other organizations where donors are going to take a step back and say, my God, if they can do it, the one that the Dutch was praising, the local government was praising, everybody was praising, then why the others wouldn't do it? You see, you got to be careful with the effect, the snowball effect that this can have. And that's what I'm warning against. We must look at the persons involved, take them under the loop carefully. If we want to know how they can travel the world and their income is minute, then check their income. Then do something different. All I'm saying, don't destroy the other organizations because of the wrongdoings of this one organization if it is wrong. Because I don't want to put my hand in the fire and say wrong things were done because I don't have that evidence and I don't want to go that direction. Climate change. What does this truly mean for Sint Maarten? Because a lot of people, they don't talk too much about climate change. But climate change is a real thing, people. It's truly a real thing that we should be looking at. Because the world is suffering it. I don't know if you all looked at what's recently happening in America. America, they are being beaten on the west side, California. Storm after storm. Cold fronts coming down for crazy. Raining out of control. We had a subtropical formation over the weekend off of Bermuda. That's what caused all the heavy rains in Sint Maarten on Sunday, because that trough came down. These are very rare events, but they're not rare anymore because they're going to become the norm of day to day with climate change. We got to understand that when we get cold fronts in the Caribbean, it affects our tourism product right away, because people that are sitting at the beach in their bathing suit and suddenly there's a dip in temperature, they're gone. They pack up and they go home. So they mash up their vacation, they destroy the little dollars the people are making at the beach, etc., etc. So again, we got to understand what effect it has. Climate change has a few more effects. The water is getting warmer and the water is rising. The caps, the polar caps are melting much faster than anticipated. The glaciers are melting much faster than anticipated. That is all fresh water. That is all fresh water. And as that comes in, it is affecting the temperature of the oceans. They are going up higher. As they go up, you get a higher water level. Places in certain Caribbean areas can be overcome by it and they go underwater. Think on places like in Tortola Day by Beef Island, by the airport. Think on places like in Sint Maarten here by the airport itself. These are low-lying areas. Kimsha, they are low-lying areas. They will go underwater very, very fast. I think Nature Foundation did a little review on which pieces of Sint Maarten, because the airport will become an island. That area will become an island because in front and behind it will go underwater. But also, rising temperatures affect the corals. Corals start to decolorize, corals start to die off. When corals start to die off, that means reefs are lost. Reefs mean fishery, and reefs make sand. Sand for our beaches. Now these are things most of us don't know, most of us don't even think about but it is the livelihood of a lot of people on these islands. The beaches in St. Maarten are the backbone of the tourism economy. People have buildings in the States too. We are now, hopefully, with the new Minister of TIAC, going to focus more on our historical value, our cultural value, our heritage, because that's tours that people want to do. So again, climate change is affecting all of these areas. The heavy rains we continuously get are creating runoffs of erosion into the ponds. Every time we open the pond, that sand goes out. Now this is a normal something that would have happened anyway in an ice age period, but we are not in that period. And the amount of sediment that we keep dumping into the waters will affect our corals, if we like it or not. These are things that we're going to start thinking about, how we're going to prevent some of this. The solution is not a simple 1, 2, 3 solution in any book. It's that every country has to look at what their issues are. Where do they need to do more protection to protect what they have? Again, I agree with you with the La Nina year, but you know, unfortunately, I agree with you. The human influence is really creating a serious effect on the climate. While La Nina does not help us very often, I like it when it stays in the Pacific, but right now she's in the Atlantic, so yeah, we'll have to deal with that piece. Let me see which other piece we had here. Oh yeah. Again, maybe climate change. Maybe we can get a little group together. It doesn't even need to be the government. Maybe a group of weather people that like weather. Maybe the meteorological department can help us with 1 or 2 people, and we can maybe make a little blog and talk about it here on island once a month. Spend a few hours, explain what's happening in our atmosphere, explain how that is going to affect the seas around us, how it's going to affect the rainfall in the country, when do you expect droughts, when do you know, those type of things. It will help us. It will really help us to understand our friend called the environment. That's not our enemy. That should be our friend. NVGB. I was a little surprised by the story that broke in one of the media outlets about the managing director of GB giving his own company work in NVGB and also in government. Now, again, I normally don't get into these type of stories, but NVGB has been a problem child for this country for quite a while now. And while they are still busy with all the investigations in there to see what is what, this article came out. Now, let me be very frank. The young man is professional at what he does. I think he has a master's or 2, and he has a bachelor's in, he has a master's in business administration and accounting, I believe, 2 masters there, and 1 in chemical engineering, I believe, a bachelor's. He was one of the 2 candidates at the airport to become the CFO. Today we got another Dutch man walking around down there, CFO. Another one. This is the 3rd or the 4th one that came in from Schiphol now. There's no counterpart. But he was one of them. He left there and he went to the NRPB. And it was at the NRPB that the government asked him if he would take up the helm at NVGB to temporarily help them out, which he graciously did. And we started working our way back out of the mess we are in, not only because of the hack, but because of bad management for the past 2 to 3 years. In 1984, 83, 84, I came back from Curacao to do my internship at NVGB. I was at a university. And I did it in 2 fields. I did it in the plant, in the power plant. I worked there for a month and a half. And then I was put in the water distribution sector, and I reported to the late Sinclair Barry, and I worked with the late Stanley Ash. And the contractor that I know I worked with was Mr. Washington. Not the young boy, his daddy. He used to work for GEBE already. He was one of the local contractors working for NVGB that time already. And I think it is the daughter of Mr. Washington who took over the company and is today still working for NVGB, government, and TALEM and other entities. You cannot expect that when somebody takes the helm that the others must stop working. Because if we do that, that would mean that the children of sitting MPs cannot work for government. Or that the company of the wife of a minister cannot deliver products to government-owned entities. But it's happening. So where do we pull this line? You see, this is a very small island. And when we start to do this, we are going to create unnecessary discussions on something that's not necessary. Mr. Washington might be leaving in a year. As long as Mr. Washington doesn't get involved in evaluating the jobs and then give preferential treatment to his family, Mr. Washington has nothing to worry about. That's why we have professionals in GEBE that do this. That's why you have departments, you have division heads or whatever. They're the ones that write out the purchase order. It isn't Mr. Washington that signs the purchase order. So I think we got to get away from this type of thinking because it is not the right way. We create unnecessary suspicion on the integrity of a person when it's not needed. Believe you me, I am critical enough to expose when exposing needs to happen. But this ain't valid. And I prefer to publicly state it because I think it will only do harm instead of good. Now, mind you, I also called the management of GEBE and I said, listen, I need you to explain to the public of St. Maarten because people are getting 2-3 bills. And naturally, they feel they're getting robbed. They feel somebody ripping them off. So please explain what's happening. Because when seniors start to call me or WhatsApp me or email me telling me I just got 3 bills in the last 2 weeks, how am I going to pay for this? I don't know. You understand? I agree with you so much, boy. So, Liga, let me tell you something. Nobody up to today questioned the boys that were moving the garbage, the new company from the Frenchman that was moving all the debris off the airport and dumping it in Cold Bay. Nobody mentioned it. Nobody questioned it. The people from the NIPA and the World Bank went over there to stop everything. But nobody questioned it. Nobody wrote a big article about it. That's who we are. But again, getting back to the bills. I asked about the bills. So, they promised me they're going to explain to the public what's happening and why it's happening. In simple, people that didn't get bills, when they reach your account and they start to update your account, they're going to realize that you got to get 3 bills yet. So they will produce the bills one after the other, and that's why you're getting them. But I understood that you don't have to pay all 3 bills in a shot. But again, since I'm the one making that rule, I will wait until the management of GEBE comes out publicly and makes that statement to the public of St. Maarten how they're going to deal with these bills moving forward. But I think it is good that an explanation is given because people need to understand what they're up against. Now, the NIPA story and the cease and desist order, that caught me. The story on its own, that's one thing. I normally don't get into these stories. Then there was a cease and desist order that also came out on Facebook that he has to move the story. Kantav, I'm talking about Mr. Rav Kantav. He had to move the story because he got a letter from the legal representatives of them. Now, when I read that, and I read it with some skepticism, I said, what's going on here? with NIPA and the investigative journalist, Mr. Kantav. And I was somewhat surprised, When you try to muzzle press, I normally get a little surprised. Or I look a little further then. Because normally, why would you do that? Is either he is totally off he rocks, or you got something to hide. It's one of the two. Or maybe a combination of both. What it is in this time, right now, you will find out as we go down here. The story states that several changes to the Article of Association, the AOA, of the National Institute of Professional Advancement, NIPA, have placed serious concerns on the good governance and the accountability standards of the Board of Directors. Okay. So, there were 7 board members, I believe, and you used to have board members that used to represent the schools, the SCOVE, the FAV. The FAV is the Academy, SCOVE is the Milton Peters College and all of them. You used to have, I think, 1 or 2 people from the Chamber of Commerce, and I think 1 person from VSR. I think there's supposed to be somebody there from the Education Department. I'm not sure, but something like that. What happened is they changed the Articles of Incorporation and the Articles of the Association, or Articles of the Association, and they said, okay, we're going to create independent positions for specialized professionals, people that are specialized. And I agree with that, if that's the way we want to go. Once it's going to enhance the board, I don't think that's a problem. And the second critical change that was made was that the board members used to sit a term of 3 years, and then there was a possibility to get a second extension of 3 years, and then that was it. That has now changed to the term becoming 5 years, and you can sit 2 more times. So in total, you go from 6 years to 15 years. Those were the 2 critical things that I saw in the article that was written, where I said, oh, I don't, why would you do that? Why would you go from 6 to 15? And when I put out my, my notice of what I'm going to talk about, a board member started to speak to me. And I know the board member very well. I have lots of respect for the board member. And the board member started explaining me what really went, or how it was put together. Not that I agree with it, but at least she explained to me the sitting board members can only go 9 years. So if they have 5 under their belt now, they can only go for 4 more years. But the new batch that come in can sit for 3 times 5. And I believe in an institution like NIPA, continuity is something that must be guaranteed. And having the same people sit in a board for so long, in my opinion, makes the board stagnant. Because you need new blood, you need new ideas. And again, as you work, you realize that you are set in your ways very often. And not necessarily wrong, Not necessarily wrong. But change. There's a reason why they say you can only be, like in America, a president for 2 terms. No more, no more. So when you start to set terms, there's a reason for it. Look, we have school boards where people sat 30, 40 years. You can see the consequences today. Look at the schools. Look at what it is. And again, the people who are on the board didn't mean wrong, They love the education. But if you don't go along enough with the education, you're going to become stagnant in there. I think that's why you try to set terms, that you get change. Change is needed in every organization all the time. Now, my opinion was it shouldn't have happened, but it happened. But like I said, I believe it should have stayed the way it was. But that's not my call. But that was one of the things that I believe should not have changed. The other aspect, like I said, was the aspect of, there was also a little claim in there that the board can manage day-to-day operations and seemingly change employees' agreements. I ain't going down there because, again, boards should not be micromanaging. That's normal. Board should supervise the year plan and go along. When it comes to employment, employment belongs to the employer. And if the employer is the board, then that must be in the articles of the association or the rules of order, whatever you want to call them. But I don't think it should be there. It's normally by the management, and the management brings it up for approval. So again, because management can't just put people to work for 10,000 guilders, oh, there must be some kind of checks and balances. So again, both are involved. Do you call that managing, micromanagement? No. If somebody is, same in the civil servantry. We get contracts, we get everything from government and everybody, but if the governor don't sanction it and sign the national decree, you got a job. So is the governor micromanaging? I don't know. You tell me. Because it is the governor that decides who works or who gets fired in government. Nobody else. All of us can set up advices. We can set up decrees. But we don't decide. The governor must put his signature here. So whatever happens in NIPA at that level, I don't want to delve into it unnecessarily. I think my question was more on the professionals that you put on the board. NIPA is a place that does a lot of trainings for market, job market oriented placement. There was a strategic plan that was presented by the chairman, Mrs. Dross, in Parliament. A good strategic plan. Let me be frank, a good plan. Ambitious, but good. So when you see that plan and you see all the streams that they push it on, that's when you tweak my curiosity when I see the board. Because there is a professional on the board when it comes to technical. But that professional is representing the Chamber of Commerce. He's holding a different seat. I didn't see anybody from the hospitality sector on the board. Why isn't somebody, for example, from the SHTA, very specifically SHTA, placed on that board? Why isn't there specifically a contractor, maybe a retired contractor, because we have some good retired contractors in this island, sit there because they know what it takes to get an employee properly trained. Because 9 of the 10 employees they get sometimes need to be trained better. And on-the-job training costs a lot of money. These are the type of people you would maybe want there. This is what I mean with when I look at the independent experts. You know, I don't know. I was a little lost with it. NIPA has a whole nursing program. Who is the medical expert on the board? These are the things that I would have loved to have read in the article. Because these are the things that I would have questioned. Now, there was also a piece in there where I had a long discussion with a board member. And that has to do with politically aligned people. There are 2 members on the board that work in the faction office of a coalition party. 2. No matter how professional they are, the fact that they are politically aligned directly in a party's office makes them an issue. Because it is so often proven how difficult it is to split party affiliation to countries' well-being. You saw it on the floor of Parliament when the Ombudsman said fraud was committed in the garbage collection contracts and the party aligned to protect their minister. Do you understand now what I mean? We don't put party-aligned people in public boards. Back when my wife was a commissioner for economic affairs, she was over TLM. And I was put on the board of TLM. And as I started digging for information, I bounced up on things that showed me how bad it was. And I was told then, stop digging, because you're going to find something you don't want to find. But I continued, knowing myself, I continued digging. And eventually it was either I had to leave the board or my wife would resign. So I left the board. Today, TLM is what it is. Not much different than how it used to be. And that wasn't good. But again, when politics takes a leading role and you create that situation because of the people that you put on a board that are too politically aligned, you have a problem. Corporate governance speaks about that. Can you recall when I spoke out about a member of a political party that was on the list and was the next in line to come to Parliament, sit on a board of the utility companies? I spoke about it publicly. Because corporate governance says don't do it. They gave an advice, don't do it. But because the advices are not binding, the government does as they feel. And this is the problem in this country. I'm not saying that the person is incapable. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying you can't be both. You can't be politician and professional because it can't be divided sometimes. It just simply can't be. Now, when I look at the other stuff about the members of the SCOVE and the FAVE not being there anymore as to be placed, I don't have an issue with that. Because those are two teaching institutions, boards of teaching institutions, that you don't need to be on the board to discuss the curriculum. You want to be on the board because you have a voice then to force through something from your organization onto another organization because you have a vote. And that shouldn't be. I don't think it was so in the past. I hope it wasn't. But you don't need to create the possibilities either. Because it says sometimes if you create the possibility, people are going to use them. So sometimes be proactive and don't create it. So I don't have no love lost that was done. Nothing, in my personal opinion, was done wrong there. I think the last piece of the story, the revolving door, is something that merits attention in the sense that 9 or 10 managers went through that organization in the span of 9 years. I think it's from 2013 it came, so let's say 9 years. That's a lot. That's like what we have done in government from 2010 to 2020. We had, 9 or 10 ministers until the last election. At least now we have been stable, with the exception of Tia that had, 3 ministers or 4 already. We have been stable with the other ministers. But that's a lot of people to go through an organization as managing director. And there might be a good reason, but there might not be a good reason either. Because I know some of those people, I know them personally, they were professionals. They were professionals in the teaching industry. So again, you see, I don't want to knock unnecessarily. I will knock if I need to. But at this point in time, I think a clarification would be wise on some things. Because when you have a legal entity send a letter to cease and desist, and you give your explanations on why, not necessarily means it's right there. That's the interpretation of the law firm. That's not necessarily the interpretation of the readers or another law firm. They can say, boy, just keep your story there because that's nonsense. We'll challenge it in courts and everybody gets rich that defends those in court. Lawyers always like a fight, you know. They're making money. It's their business. That's the business they're in, to defend. But there needs to be something to defend. If it was right or not, I don't know. And I don't think I'm going to want to delve into it. I don't like to delve into personal matters too much unless it is of such a high standard that, you got to go deal with it because it's getting out of hand. The famous meeting of January 12th and 13th with the 3 prime ministers of the Cass Islands and the state secretary and their entourages. What exactly did it yield? Before this meeting, nobody knew what the position was of country St. Maarten in the Coho. Nobody knew. I am happy to read that the consensus kingdom law for the Coho is off the table. I'm very happy for that. Because it means now we're going to get something else. What we're going to get, we don't know yet. We know it's going to be a mutual agreement between St. Maarten and the Netherlands. We know that much. That was said. We also know that the country packages remain in force as they are. As they are. But with the Coho gone, for example, now, it means that all the monies that were reserved from first instance already for tax reform can now be released right away. Don't need to worry about what will come to Coho, just a mutual agreement is coming. And we are experts in St. Maarten and mutual agreements. Experts. We got about 40 of them in the justice. A mutual agreement means Parliament don't have a damn thing to say. This is between the ministers and the other country. Parliament don't have nothing to vet. So who was going to vote this way or that way? Crap a smoky pipe. That's out of the window. Well done, Prime Minister. But be careful, because mutual agreements can be deadly agreements. You know that just as good as me. Look at the justice chain and you will notice why they can be so deadly. I think, though, that we missed a great opportunity to give some sense of direction, shed some sense of light on the liquidity loans. Because at the end of the day, we have no clue yet what's really going to happen. Yes, there was a desire that the loans will be nullified or partially nullified and that we will be given an extension at a 0% interest rate or as low as possible interest rate. Those are all desires, those are all wishes. That's not our reality right now. But our reality is that we got to come with a balanced budget. This country got to continue moving forward. The good part of it is also, as long as there's no new budget, the old budget counts. The one with the 70 million deficit. Because that 70 million going to pass over to this year's budget, or an agreement has to be reached with CFT. How are we going to move forward? How are we going to deal with liquidity loans? Do we take them out of the budget until there's an agreement with the Netherlands? These things, this is where clarity is needed, ministers. You got to explain the public of St. Maarten what's happening, where we going, because nothing is being said. Nothing is being said when it comes to that. So I think we missed a good opportunity when they were together to get a little more out of it. Look, that we're going to start talk about it in February is all nice and well. Because that's the oldest thing they told us. We're going to start talking about it in February. That could be 2 weeks from now. That could be 6 weeks from now. So when the budget coming? So when budget 2023 can come? Because you're saying it's gone to CFT. But how can it go to CFT if you got 240 million in debt that has to be paid in October 2023 and you have no answer on what's happening with that? And the Netherlands has given no indication to anybody on where they stand with it right now. Other than we're going to talk about it. The same goes for the mutual agreement. We're going to start putting everything on paper now and we're going to sign a match. Now I believe that's going to be a much easier one than the loans, because the temporary working group, the TWO, I think that agreement can function as the mutual agreement. I don't think much has to change there, because, yeah, how would I say, it has worked good for 2 years. I ain't got no need to knock that. It's working. Let's go with it. Just to make sure we cover ourselves carefully. But again, I think we got a negative advice for 2022 because of the budget overrun. So we don't even have an approved budget 2022, the amended, let me put it to the amended version of the budget. So how do we go now to an approved, positive balanced 2023 budget, which is a requirement of the Kingdom government? It's a requirement. Those were also some of the reasons we were allowed to do certain things with rolling back the 12.5%, the 25%, and stick the top income earners into place. All of these things were intertwined. And the last thing you want now is you're going to give the money and they got to take back the money because the Dutch say, yeah, but you didn't live up to these agreements. You see, we got to be careful, people. It's an election year. The last thing we want is people's hopes to be brought up and then all falls asunder. But on a different note, what happened to the democratic deficit? What happened to the dispute regulation? And what happened to this flawed charter we have, this flawed kingdom charter? What about them? They too want to be discussed. They too want to be reviewed. But they still seem to be lost in space. Look, the democratic deficit, you can't fix that. We already have a minister plenipotentiary in there. You're never going to get more votes with how much we got? In Sint Maarten we got what? 60,000, 120,000. In Curacao there's 180. Give Aruba 100,000, that's 280,000 versus 18 million in the Netherlands. You really think you're going to change that deficit? Hey, please, get out of that whole thing called Kingdom Council. Get out of it. When you're part of it, they can't blame you for being part of it. Get out of it and seek a different alternative. Seek a manner where maybe the dispute regulation can find its way now in a legal basis. And then you're much better off. You don't need to be worrying with the democratic deficit because that ain't going to change. We cannot be that stupid to believe it's going to change. So work on the dispute regulation and make sure that it's an independent body with a fixed outcome. So it's a binding decision. And that, if you need to, you challenge that in a court of law. And you don't need to do it within the kingdom. You can also do it in the Human Rights Court because you have that right. You have certain rights. So again, let's think about it. Let's see, because I had hoped to hear a little more about that. But again, nada. Alternative energy and waste energy. Now, this is something that has always been close to my heart, and with the political party that I have affiliated myself with now, I told them these are one of the things that we really got to start looking at, and looking at it from a different aspect than the common man looks at it from all the time. I think we have to look at this field of energy creation, that it not only enhances the people of this country's wealth, but we also need to look at it from a different angle. We need to look at it from the sustainability and the resilience angle. We live in a hurricane belt. Like it or not, climate change is going to ensure that we're going to get heavier and stronger hurricanes. That's part of life. We're going to have to learn to live with it. We have to look at the wealth creation for the country and for its people. We have to look at the environmental impact on the country and its people. If we look at it from that direction, you're going to cover different things. You're going to cover the landfill. You're going to cover the alternative energies along the coastlines. You're going to cover solar. You're going to cover different things. And you're going to cover that the utility company is going to have less expenses and make some money. And people that use solar panels will save within 5 to 6 years, because then their bills will be nearly minute because the system has been paid off, and the system can go for 15 years. So again, these are the type of things that we have to look at. Now remember, you can even go as far and say, you know, I want to use geothermal energy and I want to run a cable from Dominica to St. Maarten, or from Sabre, if we can get to it, to St. Maarten, and supply you with electricity. There's enough geothermal in the volcano of Sabre to light up the whole Dutch and French side of St. Maarten. Don't fool yourself. And you know, when people say, well, you run a cable, but we run a cable from here to San Juan. The EMP, I think they call it the EMP1, the telecommunication cable with Smith Coms, that went to Puerto Rico, from Puerto Rico to here. So why we can't go from here to Dominica and bring up energy? You know, we do as if it's impossible, but it's very possible. It's very, very possible. These things are buried in the seabed. Can it get damaged? Sure it can. Anything can happen in this world. But it can be done. It can be done. So these are things we got to start thinking about. Listen, we can pick up our garbage. We talked about it before, and we're going to talk about it again. We can burn our garbage, and we can make either electricity out of it, or we can make drinking water out of it, or we can make a combination out of it. We have enough cruise ships coming in here that we can make money off of their garbage, because we are burning the particles of garbage that we are accepting, and we are recycling the other part of it. That way, you're also recycling what you have on island, creating a better environment and enhancing the wealth in your country. They go hand in hand. One man's garbage is another man's wealth. Remember that. One man's garbage is another man's wealth. And if we play our cards right, we can do a lot for this country. We have to understand that the sustainability and the resilience factors are the downtimes we have after hurricanes. Let me say this. GEBE over the years, especially during the last part of the term of Mr. Chittick and his team, continued the underground cabling that started in 1995 after Hurricane Lewis. Mr. Lambert started to put everything underground. High tension, I believe, is for 99% underground, and low tension is for close to 85 to 90. We are light years ahead of all other countries in the Caribbean, because 90% of them have a lot of stuff overhead yet. The overhead stuff you see belongs to TLM, cable TV, those type of things. And cable TV now is TLM, so I know they still have a lot of wires on the wooden poles that you see. But there too is a program to put it on the ground. Once everything is on the ground, when the hurricane comes and it ravages everything, you can start back your engines if they're okay, and you can put back on light. The houses that the roof was gone, you pull those fuses, so there's no electricity there. But you can put back on electricity. You can start back up your water plants and hope that the tanks are not damaged. And if the tanks are damaged, you can still push water in the lines and keep it to a certain pressure so that you can give water to all the people on the lower lying areas in your country. So again, this happened with Irma. A lot of people didn't know that, but this happened with Irma. Water was put back into the lines, and while the tanks were damaged, we gave water to the surroundings. They bought the 5,000 plugs and plugged up all the holes, and they were able to give water. So it can work. So in that, yeah, SMPR1, that was the cable that Taylor had laid. So again, the downtime, you have to break that down, because when you do that, you really make your country resilient to weather. Again, like I said, the wealth creation for the country and its people, we have to create a program, a solar program, where the government or a foreign entity, I don't care right now anymore which one brings the money, but it goes through NVGB, because GB is the sole distributor of electricity and water on this island through production. So we're going to produce solar energy, but we can also produce it on your roof. We can also put the panels on your roof, and there will be a payback methodology that you pay for. So you pay for your panels over 7 years, for example, while you're paying a part of your bill, because your bill will go down with the fuel clause. If you put solar panels during the day, it will go down drastically, because only the night usage. If you have batteries, you might even have enough storage in your batteries to run through the night. And that means that the consumption by GB is zero or very minute. So you will still have to pay that consumption, and the savings that you have, you will be paying back GB for the solar panels on your roof. And you'll notice there's a transition period after 5-6 years. You will not be paying those panels anymore because you own those panels. Yes, I know there are companies in St. Maarten that already do this, but I am not here to promote any companies. I'm here to promote the government-owned company, which is GB, and whomever they work with, and they are great companies on this island that they can work with, because I am also busy with one of those companies personally. We can do a lot for everybody. There must be equal opportunity. This is not only for those that can afford it, because maybe government can also create a subsidy system where they will subsidize solar panels for people that own homes too. Look, when you get into the rental pool, that's a different story, because you're going to have to deal with the owners of the buildings, not the residents that are renting the building. This is a problem, though, that I need you to understanding or walk just 1, 2, 3, because that's a different story. But again, there are low-hanging fruits for people that own a home, and maybe we can start there, and we can start the resiliency. Because you know, if my neighbor got solar panels, and after a hurricane he got current and water, he can put some things in his fridge that my food don't spoil. We can help each other that way. That's wealth creation, because you're saving things, you're not losing things. What you would have normally lost, you're losing right now. But by giving everybody an equal opportunity, they too are creating wealth through solar panels on their roof. So again, there are a lot of ways we can do this. We can also put out 3 to 5 wind turbines on the east coast of St. Maarten. Those things can make between 2 and 3 megawatts, or 1, 2, or 3 megawatts. But if you would take 5 of 2 megawatts, that's 10 megawatts. That's 20% of what GB produces. That don't cost no fuel. That's an investment, and you pay back that investment through an agreement between GB and the investors, backed by the government of St. Maarten, like what they did for the airport. It's possible. These are the out-of-the-box things we got to start thinking of doing, instead of fighting who doing what. This is what we got to start doing. Again, it is possible. Where there's a will, there's always a way. When you look at the impact on the environment, we have to primarily look at how we can deal with our garbage. We need to be able to deal with the garbage, and like I said before, I'll say it again, waste to energy is a common something on small islands. The developed small island development states, the Sints, is a common something. You don't need a bigger, people don't know, no? But 45 to 50 years ago, we had a little incinerating plant in Sint. We used to burn our garbage where today Heavenly Water is, across there. Before the sewage plant, where Chapatine used to be. That was the landfill. That's where we used to bring our garbage and burn it in a green incinerator. For those that were born then and used to live then, I can remember it myself. So we used to burn garbage in the past. Nothing new with that. Now it's on a bigger scale. Because then we used to have 3,000 people, 5,000 people. Today we got 60 to 80,000. And we get garbage from the front side. Because nobody wants to go over there and pay for it. So again, we need to look at this. And if we don't do it, and if we continue thinking that the World Bank is going to bring this solution for us, we're wrong. They don't have the money to invest in it. And they're going to want to tie us down to do an investment through them. We realize that everything that comes in here from the World Bank is coming from some partner company they're dealing with in one of their countries. Y'all gotta learn to say it the way it is. I gonna say it. I have told you all already. I gonna start saying things that people will get upset with me. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I believe we need to understand climate change is going to play a major role in the next 20 years in this country. And we got to start preparing for it. We truly got to start preparing for it. If we don't, we're going to miss the boat. So again, like I said, I hope we get some wind turbines. I hope we look at, maybe we should pick up the funds from the ESP. The ESP and the Entrepreneurship Support Program. We got a lot of money there. A lot of money still hanging there. Maybe we should take up some of that money and let GEBE run a solar panel program on the homes of people with a 5 to 7 year repayment opportunity. And maybe because it is the ESP money, we give a 50% subsidizing, because that's what our money was for. You used to have to pay back 35% or 40%, and the rest you get for free once you do it in a business. Solar is a business. So anybody who roof you put it on, consider them an entrepreneur, because they're making electricity. And they're going to make that for the rest of their life or the rest of the solar panels' life. So it's a business. It's a wealth creation business for whomever gets those solar panels on their roof and gets a little 50% discount on it and a repayment of 5 to 7 years. I think nearly everybody in St. Maarten earning $3,000 a month can afford that. Maybe even if you're earning $2,000 a month, you might be able to afford it, because you can pay back that GEBE bill easy. So think about it, people. Let me go into the last piece of today's discussion, I think. No, it's the one before last. I'm looking at my time. I was asked to once again explain the decent minimum wage, or better said, the livable wage. They wanted me to explain once again what I meant with this, and because they didn't understand everything. It's simple. When we look at a minimum wage that we get in St. Maarten, it is not a livable wage. You can't, when you get the minimum wage, you can't afford to do what a family of 4 or 3 needs to do. You need, in Curacao, a livable wage, the SER said, is approximately $2,650, approximately. Curacao is much cheaper than St. Maarten when it comes to housing. Food might be the same, but housing is much cheaper, at least 30% cheaper. Utilities are about the same, maybe even a little more expensive right now in Curacao. So let's say because housing is such a critical part, let's add on 15% onto the one from Curacao. That would bring us around 3,000 guilders. So that the livable wage in St. Maarten would be approximately 3,000 guilders for a family, a standing alone mother with 2 children, for example. Because that's how the calculation was done in Curacao. Now, if you're giving me right now about 1,700, that means there's a whole of approximately 1,300 guilders. And you have to say, okay, who are you going to help? Because when you look at pensioners, the way they get as a maximum is 1,224 guilders, I believe, and you have to have had 50 years on the island. So if you're living here for 40 years, you'll get 80% of that, which would be approximately about 1,000 guilders. That means you're in the hole for 2,000 guilders. Seniors get pension, depending how long they worked and how high their pension is. They might also be around 2,000, 2,500 guilders. They're too in a hole for 1,000 to 500 guilders. So a lot of people are going to need help. So you're going to have to create a subsidy program to help these people. And you can help them in different fields. You can help them with rent subsidy. Now, what do I mean with rent subsidy? Rent subsidy is a way to do wealth creation, because a lot of people have apartments for rent, but they can't get them rented because for them to pay their mortgage, they need to have a minimum rental income. So let's say the rental income was $800 to be able to pay back the mortgage and so, or $800 to be able to have a living as a senior. Because a lot of seniors have like maybe a one-bedroom apartment and they try to make a little money off of that to be able to live. But if they have to rent it for $400 instead of $800, it ain't helping them. So this is where rent subsidy would come in. Rent subsidy where the government would look at the place through the rental committee and say, okay, we're going to value it at this, and you can rent it for so much, and because of that, you come into consideration for rent subsidy. So whomever is going to live in that apartment, instead of them paying the $600 or the $700 that you would like for it, they could only afford $400, the subsidy would be $300. That's how the rent subsidy would work. You could get your apartment rented for the amount of money you believe it was worth it, and this way you will have a better income as a senior. Also, you can say, okay, I'm going to subsidize the water and electricity factor. I will pay 30% of your electricity bill, maybe through the solar program. You can get a subsidy there where the fuel clause, which is about right now 55% or 60% of the bill, that will be of, I don't know, these things go up to a maximum of 100 guilders a month, etc., etc. There are ways that we can do these type of things. Food is something that people need. So again, the food voucher system that was done in the past by the Maarten Development Foundation, maybe this is something we got to look at again and see how we can, look, I'm saying there are different things that we can put in a package as a subsidy package where the population can apply. Jacques, I agree with you that the livable wage is also based on healthcare, but most of the people in St. Maarten have access to healthcare. This isn't a country where 80% doesn't have healthcare. In St. Maarten, majority of the people have healthcare. There are people that fall through the cracks. Look, illegal people, it's a problem to look at the livable wage for them because they shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be here. And we had at SFV 3,000 illegal people that were registered at one point in time to show you that even they were having health care. So no, I don't agree with the factor that when the SER did the review in Curacao, all factors were held. That's why I'm telling you, if in Curacao it was about 2,600 guilders, here look at approximately 3,000 because it's a little more expensive. But all the factors are there. So no, I don't think we are missing certain things over here, but I think we're on the right track. Another thing that always creates a problem is school fees, school material. You notice how many people has come out every year and help pay a school fee for a child, give bags with supplement. These are things, people do that because it's needed. People need help with these things. So these are things we can look at. You know, public transportation. Parents have to pay for their child to go on the school bus nowadays, but maybe we can help there because they can't make ends meet. So the child is standing beside the road looking for a lift, or the bus driver says, boy, child just get on, I can't leave you standing there. But unfortunately, these are facts we got to deal with. These are things we got to deal with, and we got to find solutions for these things. So I'm saying again, we're going to ask ourselves the one, where we get the money from, Bancampa? We can get the money very, very easy. This one ain't difficult. We have to agree and sign an agreement with the French side that we are willing to charge 8 or 10% import duties at both ports. I know the French side offered this once before, and we didn't accept it. The system that they have by customs at the harbor can handle this tomorrow. It was bought and built for that. Because remember, in our country packages, we keep speaking about it. Is it going to be a 12.5%? Is it going to be 20%? We call it VAT, value added service, a value added tax. We ain't got to go there. We got to go to the import, to the source, where we grab it when it comes in. French side is doing the same thing. So they, listen, if we put 20 and they got 8, everybody going French side. But if both of us have 8, everybody will stay where they are. The turnover tax disappears then, because that's a triple taxation unnecessarily on people. So if you pay the 8% at import, you get on average, turnover tax was about 30 million per percentage point. So let's go on import at 25 million for percentage points. That would be 200 million that you get in through imports. You only get 150 with turnover tax. So you just made 50 million more. And with that, you can start to work this program, people. Let us not play as if we can't think and do. Can't crunch numbers in your head? I can, and I can very fast. That's why I sit down here and I give you numbers. But it is possible. We just have to want to help our people. And the now is willing to do that. Remember those things. We don't need to tackle poverty tomorrow. We can tackle poverty right now. Right now. Because they mightn't make tomorrow. We got to understand, man. These are human beings we're talking about. These are not stocks and commodities. These are not bonds. These are human beings we're talking about. Senior citizens that put in their time to build this country. We prefer to leave them go hungry than to find a solution and help them. Children wake up every morning and go to school hungry. And we prefer to leave them go to school hungry than wake up and find the solution for them and make sure they can eat. If that's the type of government you want, vote these clowns in. If you want to change, you come by me. You come with a no. Because this is crazy. And because this is an election year, I am going to be rolling out a part of our manifesto, slowly but surely. Because not many can think the way we think. Not many are willing to make the sacrifices that we're going to have to make together. But a lot of people, they always, oh, it's fear-mongering, oh, it's politics and this. No, it's not. You either care for people in your heart or you don't. And they got some of them up there, cold spaghetti. Nothing warm in that body. And when the time is right, you're going to understand why I said that. I'm going to close with this, people. The impact of the inflation on the central bank's balance sheets. A lot of people don't know that the inflation is crippling the central banks. Because the central bank, especially the one from Curacao and St. Maarten, their main task is to ensure that the dollar that's pegged to the guilder stays intact. But when the inflation starts to go out of whack, the central banks then raise the interest rates to curb the inflation. But it has a serious effect on them. It can have a very, very serious effect on what's going on. Right now, the prices not only cause a havoc on our pocketbooks, it destroys some of the markets. For example, the rate hikes. The stocks and bonds market shedded close to 30 trillion. Trillion is 12 zeros behind the number. So 30 and then 12 zeros. 30 trillion was shedded in 2022. That means get rid of it. Gone. Loss. Because of inflation. And inflation will continue in 2023, but not as bad as 2022. But it doesn't mean to say that ain't gonna happen anymore. Because you must remember, the central banks, they're the victims of their own doing, eh? Because as the security bonds, those are fixed incomes. If you start raise interest rates, everybody gonna cash out. Everybody gonna cash out and try to buy something else for a better income rate. Because if they were getting it for 2% or 1%, and now suddenly you got it at 5% because you raising the interest rates, everybody gone. Holland has that problem right now with our loans. When the loans were given to us for liquidity, we had a negative interest rate of 0.05. 0.5, 0.5% negative rate. And today, the rate's about 2.5%, 3%. So there was a change of 3.5% between 2021 and right now, which means our interest rates are not 0% anymore. That's why the three prime ministers asked to keep it at 0% or as low as possible interest rate. It ain't gonna be zero. It ain't gonna be. Holland said clearly, you will get the rates that I get on the market. And as long as they were zero, you're good to go. But that has changed. And we got to prepare for that. So again, remember, there were a lot of problems, a lot of shocks that we had, but things have changed. You must remember, there are 100 reasons, 100 explanations about the consequences of ultra low interest rates. But there are two critical ones. You have a structural factor, that is the decline in the natural interest rates. That is because we have an aging population in the advanced economies, and advanced economies I'm talking about Europe, America, Japan, those places, the Baltics, causing a savings glut. So these people ain't getting involved anymore in investments. The technology in combination with globalization is driving down investments in manufacturing. Those two things are the structural problems we have. And then you have the major central banks have created $11 trillion support of economy by extending their balance sheets during buying, in particular, government bonds with depressing yields, very low interest rates, trying first back in 2008, 2009 to save the global financial crisis, and then as a response to the pandemic in 2021. So while they are selling bonds at very low interest rates, but outside you got interest rates now at 3%, what do you think investors are going to do? They're going to buy in the high interest bonds and not in your low interest bond. So what's happening to them? They're losing money. They're losing serious money, the central banks, by their own doing. But like I said, it is not one of these simple things. Yeah, these bond programs, they had this fancy name from the European Central Bank. It was called the Pandemic Emergency Purchase Program. That's where, for example, even places like France and them were getting monies from the European, from Brussels and all them to help with these type of things, where the central bank was backing these loans with very low interest rates, giving them the loans to, for example, these places. So again, a lot of things went down there. But again, like I said, it is something that, yeah, we got to look at. I think the times are changing. We are seeing that the times are changing. Right now, for example, I believe that the losses in the fixed income portfolio is going to be there for the central bank. How long that's going to last, I don't know. Again, I am no expert in this. So I will go along with what the central bank president says when he says today's pain is tomorrow's gain. With interest rates rising fast, the bonds of the portfolio of the central bank are worth less but are being gradually sold to be reinvested in bonds at higher rates for the future, so-called the rebalancing process. So I hope that we rebound in the central bank. You notice the euro has picked up some strength again. It went from 95 cents to the euro to now 1 euro being $1.07. So a change of 12 cents in the last month and a half. Again, let me thank the former acting Minister of TIAT, Minister Otley, for a great job he did when he had that portfolio for approximately a year now, going nearly, carrying two batons, VSR and TIAT. Job well done, sir. Your successor has great plans, and I wish the new Minister of TIAT also lots of success. I hope we can get our hands on the developments in the oil industry, where prices are going to climb, that we can control that by maybe seeing how we're going to work with the utilities companies and solar programs in the very, very near future. You know, there was this saying that I loved and I want to close with it. Are we ducks or eagles? You decide. A duck will complain about everything and not have a mission or never do what is needed to excel. An eagle has a mission and will do what's needed and will soar high above. The ducks are all busy complaining while the eagle is successful at what he wants to accomplish, no matter the field of work he or she is in. Who you are makes the difference. If you get up in the morning expecting to have a lousy day, you certainly will. Don't be a duck, be an eagle. Ducks just make noise and complain. Eagles soar above the pack. We mostly all the time making noise and complaining. So let's decide to change our attitudes and become an eagle now. Let's make some changes and become better persons and start earning more income and enhance our wealth now. The decision is yours. 2023 will be nothing new if we don't have new attitudes. So let's do this now. Let's all be eagles in 2023. Please share my podcast, and God bless you all. Have a most wonderful week and a productive one ahead. Take care. Bunks is out.